Superman kind of sucks. Sorry, but it's true. He's not a good character. He's absurdly powerful, and no enemy stands a chance against him. He's really boring because you know he's going to win every fight. Also, he's not even a flawed character. He's morally perfect in every way, and he always does the right thing. Who wants to watch a character who never loses or makes a mistake? Is what I would say if I didn't know any better. This idea that Superman is boring because he's too perfect is not a new take. In fact, it's probably the single most common opinion on Superman out there. But I have the feeling that people who say this kind of thing don't actually know that much about Superman. What if I told you that Superman actually loses a lot? At least as often as the average superhero. Yeah, it's a given that he's going to win pretty much any fight, but there are other ways to lose. It's hard to write a main character who's really powerful, since stories need conflict and it's hard to create an obstacle serious enough to threaten them. But it can totally be done. If you look at Superman stories over the years, writers have found lots of ways to put him in situations where success is not guaranteed. So let's take a look at how to write a character as perfect as Superman. And if you think Superman is boring, let me politely show you why you're wrong. Main characters are supposed to be underdogs, right? That's what all the conventional writing advice says. You need to stack the odds against your protagonist, make it look like the challenge they face is insurmountable, so that it feels super satisfying when they do manage to win. We want to see struggle, adversity, danger. Nobody wants to see a character breeze through the story with no trouble at all. That's how you get a Mary Sue. Now, the term Mary Sue is one of those words that the internet has overused so much that it's lost most of its meaning. But generally, it refers to a main character who is great at everything and can solve every problem without even trying. There are plenty of poorly written stories out there where the main character doesn't face any truly challenging obstacles. But I think that most of the time, when people criticize a character and accuse them of being a Mary Sue, that criticism is misdirected. Having a character like this isn't inherently bad. When a story is like this, the problem isn't with the character, it's with the plot surrounding the character. You can make a protagonist who's really skilled. There just has to be an obstacle that poses them difficulty. But how do you create a challenge for this character who's so strong? You have a couple of options. 1, create an antagonist who's equally strong. Going back to Superman, this is when he fights a supervillain like Doomsday. The two of them are on equal footing, so there's a real sense Superman might lose. 2, find a way to impair the main character's skills. Distract them, tie one hand behind their back, make their opponent cheat. With Superman, that's when Kryptonite comes into play. It takes away his powers and makes him weak for the time being. Those two methods work just fine, but there's a better way. 3, have the real challenge come from something outside the hero's skill set. No character is great at everything. If you want them to struggle, force them to do something they're not good at, something they're unprepared for. There's that Pixar rule of storytelling. What is your character good at, comfortable with? Throw the polar opposite at them, challenge them. How do they deal?
The Amazons prepared her for everything, except talking to boys.
One of my favorite examples of this is in the Name of the Wind series. The main character, Kvothe, is the smartest and most capable magician who ever lived. This should make him completely insufferable, and some readers do think he is. But the story keeps you rooting for him because he's always put into unfair situations where he isn't equipped to solve his problems. He attends a magic school for rich kids with a really expensive tuition, and he's both dirt poor and terrible at managing money once he has it. He has a mouth on him, and he constantly manages to make powerful enemies who make his life harder. Even with his astronomical skill level, things are never easy for him. There are tons of ways to put Superman in a situation where he can't use brute strength to solve his problem. Who's Superman's greatest enemy? Lex Luthor. The strategist who can outthink Superman, and the billionaire who can leverage his massive wealth and resources against him. Superman can't punch that. And come to think of it, lots of Superman villains have abilities that can't be fought directly. There's Parasite, who absorbs strength and only grows stronger the more Superman hits him. There's Mr. Mxyzptlk, an interdimensional being who uses magic to mess with him. And there's Bizarro, a copy of Superman who's as strong as him, but who isn't usually causing harm on purpose. Conflicts with Bizarro usually involve Superman reasoning with him and redirecting him so that he doesn't hurt people. Even beyond direct physical confrontations, there are other ways that Superman can face problems he can't just punch away. His secret identity might be at risk, as a foe or a friend might come close to discovering that he's really Clark Kent. There might be widespread destruction that threatens lots of civilians. And as strong and fast as he is, he can't save all of them at once. Or maybe the public is against him. They're afraid of him and see him as a threat, so he has to keep helping people despite people not wanting his help.
He has the power to wipe out the entire human race, and if we believe there's even a 1% chance that he is our enemy, we have to take it as an absolute certainty.
See, even someone as unstoppable as Superman can have problems he can't easily solve. That's how you write around his physical power, but the other thing that makes Superman tricky to write is his personality. Superman was designed to be this perfect paragon who always does the morally good thing. Most good stories have both external conflict and internal conflict, and Superman doesn't really get internally conflicted about what he's doing. But again, that's only what it looks like from a distance to somebody who's not familiar with Superman. Superman runs into internal conflict all the time. First of all, just because he always does the right thing, doesn't mean he always knows what the right thing to do is. He's capable of making mistakes, misunderstanding, and being misled. Again, Lex Luthor is his greatest enemy because of his ability to outthink him. Superman could also fixate on the mental and emotional strain in being mankind's savior. He's only one being, and he can't save everyone all the time. To borrow from another superhero story, with great power comes great responsibility, and the pressure from that responsibility has the potential to crush him. Especially if there are other characters who mistrust and hate him. It's hard being the strongest man on Earth. Stories can mine that for conflict. But what if you don't want Superman to make a bunch of mistakes, or wallow in angst the whole time? Can't you just make a story where Superman saves the day without any self-doubt? For that, let me introduce you to the concept of a flat character arc. Most character arcs are what we would call positive arcs, where the main character changes for the better. Sometimes a story will have a negative character arc, where they change for the worse. But sometimes, the main character doesn't really change. This is the flat character arc, where it's not the protagonist that changes, it's everyone around them. By appearing in the center of the story as a positive example, they inspire those around them to be better people. This is how Superman typically operates. That's why his character was created in the first place. He's supposed to be this shining example of goodness to inspire all of us to be our best selves. So most of his stories involve him being really great and leading others to do good alongside him. There are a lot of Superman-like characters who do terrible things, because realistically, having that much power would corrupt a person. And lots of Superman stories have characters who assume the same about Superman, because how could that kind of power not corrupt him?
A superpower being shows up and all he wants is to pull cats out of trees? Yeah, I'm not buying it.
But they soon come to realize that, no, Superman really is just that good. And it reaffirms the possibility that you can use your power to help people. There's, I think, this unspoken misconception about Superman that the people who created him were naive. That they created an innocent, sickeningly sweet character that no longer fits in with today's cynical, complex media landscape. But that's never what Superman was. The whole point of Superman is to subvert your expectations by presenting a person who is both powerful and wholly good. Something that should be impossible. Watch this OSP video for more great analysis about this specifically.
It's too good to be true. He's 6'4", has black hair, blue eyes, doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, and tells the truth.
To wrap all this up, let me talk about one of my all-time favorite Superman stories. The animated movie, Superman vs. the Elite. And the comic it's based on. What's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way? The premise of the story is that a bunch of new heroes, and I say that with heavy air quotes, show up and start killing their enemies. They're not afraid to get their hands dirty and use extreme violence to make sure the bad guys can't hurt more innocent people. They get into some disagreements with Superman because according to them, they do what needs to be done. Superman is stupid for showing mercy and holding back when he fights, and anyone with power should use it to fight evil by any means necessary. And the public agrees. They get frustrated with Superman's refusal to stop the bad guys permanently. Eventually, even Superman himself has moments of doubt where he questions whether he's on the wrong side. This story encompasses all the different types of conflict I brought up so far. The story isn't really about physical fighting. It's about philosophical disagreement. The antagonists are challenging Superman's beliefs and bringing into question what the right thing to do is. It gets to the heart of why Superman does what he does, and what makes him good. I won't spoil how it resolves, but you should really go watch this movie, or read the comic. It's the best storytelling that Superman has to offer, and it shows the real potential of a character like this. So if you thought Superman was boring, I hope I changed your mind. And if you're a writer, don't be afraid to make your main character really capable. They can still be the underdog as long as you set up the story correctly. Remember, everyone has a weakness. You just need to find that weakness and exploit it. In your writing, in your writing.
Up, up, and away! Maybe this time they'll learn that crime doesn't pay.